There's one quick fix that you can make with your lines to instantly improve your stability and make your line work look a lot darker and bolder in just a couple seconds. But before we get into that, make sure that you smash the subscribe button and turn on notifications so that you never miss a new tattoo technique video. For those of you new to the channel, I'm Nathan from Tattooing 101, and we've been teaching aspiring tattoo artists just like you how to tattoo since 2016. One thing that I've noticed after time with new artists is that they'll often start tattooing with a busted angle on their machine. So when you're tattooing, it does help to have a little bit of an angle, right? You don't want to be too far like this because then you're just going to slice up the skin. Or if you're absolutely perfectly straight like this, it's not going to help you a whole lot either. Or if you are completely angled to the wrong side of the line. So for example, if I'm doing this line here and then my machine is angled off to the side of the line, I'm just going to get a bunch of blowouts on this one side here. The line's going to massively thicken and expand. It's going to look horrible. If you tattoo completely vertically as well, you have to remember that it's much easier to also get a blowout, all right? Because when you have a little bit of an angle when you tattoo, the needle goes across the skin as opposed to straight down into that third fatty layer of the skin where blowouts happen, right? So having a little bit of an angle, you can actually put more of the needle in the skin without it blowing out and getting that third layer. Not only that, but if you have the machine angled directly upwards, the machine is just putting dots in the skin that are just going next to each other, which can make your lines appear very transparent. They're not fully saturated, right? However, when you have your machine at an angle, because the needle's going into the skin, across the skin, when you look directly down, those penetration paths all overlap with each other. So you're putting layer upon layer upon layer of ink on top of each other as opposed to just dots that are right next to each other, which can make the line look not as dark. Also, when the needle goes directly down into the skin, it puts a nice dot, like a circular mark on the skin. But when you go in at an angle, that extends out more towards like an oval. You'll get an elongated ellipse marking the skin instead of like a perfect circle. So when you're doing a line and the machine is at an angle and those ellipses all line up with each other, again, it just gets a darker, more saturated line. That said though, when you are tattooing at a bit of an angle, the thinner the needle is, so like a 3-round line, a 5-round line, stuff like that, very easy for all of the shafts to enter the skin and get a solid line. However, as you start going with bigger needles, 14-round liners, 18-round liners, and etc., you have to gradually increase the amount of angle that you have so that all the shafts enter the skin, and you have to move slower so that all those little circular dots that it's putting in the skin are close enough together to get a fully saturated line, which is why you can move much quicker with smaller liner needles than you can with bigger liner needles. Another thing is when you're lining, when you are constantly holding the machine vertically upright, the machine can feel sort of very heavy. However, when you have it at an angle and it's all resting on your hand supports the weight of the machine. You just have to focus on gliding across the skin and getting fully a saturated line. So even when you're using those thicker needles, I still have a little bit of an angle, almost like, 80 degrees, 85 degrees. So this is a nautical star, and I'm going to tattoo the outside with a 14. So you can see like what the angle looks like when I'm tattooing with a thicker needle. And I'm going to use a 7 to get these inner lines here, and you can see what that looks like, the angle, when I'm using a thinner needle. So using a Bishop liner wand, 6.5 volts. So you can see here when I'm tattooing, like I'm almost lifting the machine up just a little bit to account for the additional depth that I'm going to get for reducing my angle. Because remember, when the machine is more vertical, more of the needle goes straight down into the skin, whereas when it's on an angle, it goes across the skin so that you can put more of the needle into the skin without it hitting that third layer and causing a blowout. So I have to account for that and just very subtly decrease the depth so that I don't go to that third layer of the skin and blow it out. You can see how much slower I move too. When I pull out the 7, you'll see that there's a pretty big increase in the speed. Cool, so that's the outer outline. Now we're going to switch to our 7 for the inner lines. So this is a much thinner needle. Still going to use the same voltage. Cool, so biggest thing to remember, guys, is that when you're tattooing, having a little bit of an angle definitely does help your lines come out more saturated. It isn't a massive difference between when you're tattooing with a large needle versus a small needle. It's a very, very subtle movement, but the small things do make the biggest difference sometimes, and this is no different. So if you are tattooing and you're having your machine perfectly vertical, or when you are tattooing, give it a little bit of an angle and you'll find it much, much easier. You get a nice clean line, so you'll get a lot less blowouts and your tattoo is gonna look a lot better overall. If you want more tattooing tips, tutorials just like this, make sure that you check out the Artist Accelerator program in the description down below. It gives you every single thing that you need to go from a beginner to a professional tattoo artist in as little as 90 days. And if you like this video, make sure you hit the like and subscribe button, and I will see you in the next one.